What's going on, guys? I'm going to start a series on my channel called Quality Control, and basically it's going to be a series where each episode will showcase a new weapon in Iron Sight. Things I'm going to cover in each episode are going to be the effectiveness of the weapon in certain situations, and I'm going to share the weapon's strengths as well as the weapon's weaknesses. I'm going to start the series off by covering the SMG class in Iron Sight just because the SMGs are the most diverse weapons in the game in my opinion, especially when it comes down to playstyle and usefulness. I plan on going through every gun in the game, but if there are guns that you guys want covered earlier, be sure to let me know and I'll prioritize those weapons first. This series is mainly going to be my opinions. I'm not going to go super in depth on each weapon and go over like damage fall off and whatnot, but I'm going to keep my opinions honest with you guys, and the gameplay will show off the best way to use the weapon effectively, and I'm going to share the weapon's advantages as well as the disadvantages so that you can use it to better your playstyle. So the first weapon I'm going to cover is going to be a weapon I haven't used before, which is the Vector. Not too many people run the Vector in game and it rarely seems to get any praise, which is the reason I wanted to make the first video of Quality Control on it. I wasn't expecting much from the gun from the start honestly, especially coming from using the P90 for so long, but from the first game that I played with it, I was pleasantly surprised with its effectiveness. The Vector feels like an AR-57 with slightly higher recoil and 20 less bullets. The fire rate on this gun is extremely fast and it will burn through its 30 round mag quickly, but it will also kill players just as quickly. The Vector is a gun that will benefit players with strong aim, but will definitely be more of a detriment to players who are not able to quickly snap and track their targets effectively. If you do struggle with medium range fights with most guns, I would shy away from those fights with the Vector, and try to stick with close range fights, and try to position yourself so that gunfights are more likely to go your way. And whether this means playing more defensive and letting people come to you, or pushing people who wouldn't expect you to push, is up to you and depends more on how confident you are in your skills and how the other person expects you to play. With most guns in Iron Sight, you'll be able to use them and do well. Weapon's effectiveness is based mostly on the way you use it yourself. An SMG like the Vector thrives incredibly in close range scenarios, so pushing spawns and playing heavy objectively will give you the best results. The Vector won't help you much when you're at medium to long range. The recoil and damage fall off will destroy the weapon's effectiveness almost entirely, and it will cause you to lose many gunfights. By knowing this information and keeping it in the back of your head while you're using the Vector, you can use the medium and long range disadvantage to your advantage. What I mean by that is instead of engaging in a medium range gunfight, figure out a different route to engage someone on your own terms. Whether that means looping around a corner and having them chase you down, or playing heavily on the enemy's flank and being a nuisance in their spawn is up to you. The most effective way in my opinion to use the Vector is to play more aggressive than you would think. So doing things like staying near an enemy spawn is extremely advantageous with this weapon because of the fast fire rate and the quick reload that the Vector has. I show off how to destroy an enemy spawn and use the Vector in the gameplay if you guys do need a better visual representation of the best way to use the weapon's strengths. For the attachments, I went with the simple setup of red dot and laser sight, losing the silencer for this gun, which I usually run on every gun. Our reason for no silencer is because of how in your face this weapon is, as well as the 30 bullet count on the Vector makes it not incredibly useful for flanking and stealth. But it is great for loud in-your-face gunfights on the objective or in the enemy spawn. I would replace the laser sight later on with a muzzle brake or some other barrel, as I did not feel much of a difference with the laser sight. Of course, attachments should always be catered more for your own playstyle and are never a strict requirement for this series. Most attachments in Iron Sight that affect recoil don't feel like they do much regardless. Now, comparing the Vector to other guns in the class, it's definitely not a gun that I would recommend for players that are just starting out, especially if you don't have much of an FPS background. The high rate of fire and high recoil of the weapon is just not friendly to the new players and would be a rough gun to use if your aim and playstyle isn't polished for the fast-paced style of Iron Sight. I would suggest the Vector for a player with more experience who can hit the shots that they need in order to kill without using the whole magazine on one person because of how unforgiving this gun is when shots are missed or more bullets are used on a person than should be. This gun is definitely more of a gun that is fun to use rather than one that is practical to use in a competitive setting. This gun thrives in pubs and objective modes such as secure point and resource takeover. This gun is definitely fun to use, so I would suggest it if you're looking for something a bit more challenging than spraying an AR-57 around, but still want to actually get kills. So that's basically it. I do feel that the Vector was a really fun gun to use. I rented it for a day. All the gameplay that you saw was from one day of me using it. So I say give it a try if you are interested in branching out to other weapons, because I was starting to get sick of just using the P90. I'm sure people are getting sick of just using the AR-57 and Scar H and whatnot, so give the Vector a try. Let me know how it works out for you guys. So like I said earlier, I'm going to try to make this a weekly series, and I'm thinking next week I'm going to cover the PP2000. I'm not exactly sure, so if you guys do have a gun that you do want to see me cover, just let me know, and I'll get to it next week. But besides that, thanks for watching. Peace out.